Welcome to the Unbound Athletic Podcast. Today's episode, all about training over the holidays and making sure you are aware of what you need to do to maintain those gains for the holiday season. I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, so to rephrase your question into English, what Jess is actually asking on behalf of Jason, correct? Jason. So he's asking, how much volume for training do you need to maintain to keep your gains, or essentially your fitness? Now that obviously is going to open a few strands of questions because then you got to define fitness, but we won't worry about going in that deep. Most people just want to know how much cardio you need to do, how much lifting you need to do, what kind of gymnastics you need to focus on to be able to maintain your overall fitness over that Christmas/holiday break period.
If you keep it simple, because it's going to be different for everyone. A nice way to think about it is what you currently do, and then maybe just half that. So you go, okay, well, I squat twice a week. I want to maintain my squat strength. If I squat once a week, you're most likely going to maintain it. If I'm doing 3 days of cardio, probably doing 1 day of similar cardio will be enough for you to hold that. You need to work a lot harder to progress, and then maintaining, you don't have to push as hard. So the worst thing we probably see is where people go, I'm just not going to train over Christmas because 1 day is not worth it. But if you can get 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, it's better than none.
Yeah, 100%. Even with myself over the Christmas period, obviously we did the Christmas workout, which I'm pretty sure all CrossFitters do anyway. But then I'm lucky enough to have a home gym. I know you came into the gym and trained. But for me personally, I just did one Metcon on the Christmas day, one Metcon on Boxing Day, and it was nothing crazy. It was like something 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, just to hit the full body. And I just for my mental space to be like, I've done something today. I know that I'm not just losing everything. But even that, you don't even have to go to that far point. You train the 1 day of the Boxing Day, you could train Christmas Eve, Boxing Day. You don't even have to do Christmas. You're going to be fine. You're not going to lose all your gains. You're not going to come back the next day and be like, oh God, I can't do a handstand anymore and I could do one last week. It's just not going to happen.
It's kind of a pathetic excuse. And that's really all it is it's just an excuse. Giving 45 minutes or an hour is better than giving nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, practice is practice.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people talk about, if you schedule in an hour for training and then maybe you're a bit late, stuck in traffic, whatever, whatever happens. And then you get to the training period, it's okay, and it's only 30 minutes. But I'm not going to get my full workout in 30 minutes. So instead of doing that, I just do nothing. Yeah. And it's you got 30 minutes, you can achieve a lot in 30 minutes. You might not be able to get as much done, but if you think about it, in that time, it's just that last minute assignment kind of feeling where you've got the night to finish it and you'll get a lot done very quickly compared to when you've got that hour where you can kind of dick around a bit, take more time warming up, look on social media, talk shit with your mates. It's just a different environment. But I think if, like you said, just don't make excuses, just fucking do it.
Just keep it simple. 50% is a nice safe bet. So there's some people that can maybe touch on it, like yourself with squatting or even Matthias. If they do once every 2 or 3 weeks and they squat, they're probably going to maintain their strength.
Yeah.
Everyone has that movement, and I suppose it's just being more in touch with that.
Yeah.
So, okay, I do need to stay on top of cardio at least once a week, or it drops off. Then okay, that's my minimum effective dose.
Yeah.
For squatting, for me, it might be twice, but it might not need to be 5 working sets. It might just be 3 sets.
Yeah, 100%.
So you can always just dial it back that way.
What do you think? Okay, so let's say someone's gone away on holidays. Same question applies. What would be, let's start with cardio, an effective way for them to maintain their cardio if they have no availability to gym equipment?
In terms of using running?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
No, essentially you could use running, but what are some ways?
Running, burpees, bodyweight stuff.
Yeah.
I think just think about your heart rate zones. So, okay, if I'm rowing and I'm wanting to do a longer time domain row, that's how I'm basically defining my improvement on cardio. Because normally there's something you're comparing to. So it might be 1,000 meter row. try and think about what that heart rate is like for you, what that feels like. So the RPE and that time duration, and try and mimic that.
Yeah.
And you can do that with running. And there's probably going to be some form of transfer.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying like, okay, think about how you feel when you do a 1K row, and then try and imitate that with your run. Like,
You don't have the rower.
yeah.
But you want to try and mimic what you can mimic.
100%.
And the time domain is in your control. You only have access to body weight movements or your conditioning.
Yeah.
So just kind of paying attention to some metrics other than just the time.
What about strength? Let's say you want to, like, let's say squat. We use that as an example. You don't have any weights. What would you suggest for someone to do to maintain their strength with squatting?
For myself personally, so I'm someone who's a good responder to power stuff. So if I was doing like maybe tempo eccentrics into squat jumps, stuff like that, that will generally help me.
Yeah.
So they're more aggressive contractions rather than just volume.
Yeah.
But that can change from person to person. Again, you just have to pay attention to it. So it's like, all right, trial and error. Did this help me? No, pivot. And you need to be okay with that process, because that's the process of training.
Yeah.
It is trial and error.
100%. And you're not going to be able to do it in a couple of days. Just come up with these revolutionary movements that work exactly for you, unless you know prior, these are like the body weight movements that will give me the most success in strength.
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, well, let's look at gymnastics, because it's probably one of the easier ones you can do when you're away. There's a lot of ability to go on your hands, or, you know, practice positions like a pistol, or, you know, get into some odd planches or whatever. So what would you say some of the more bang for your buck movements for gymnastics is to practice while you don't have availability for a gym?
I like the hold. So I like people going towards isometric. So maintaining like your frog balance to maintain your wrist flexion and strength, maintain your tolerance to be on your hands as well. The hollow holds, the arch holds, some position changes, maybe single leg alternating V snaps, returning back to a hollow. So time under tension for gymnastics is normally going to be your best friend.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, to answer Jason's question, as long as he trains at 50% of roughly his training volume that he did prior. So if he was doing 2 days of squatting a week, he would do 1, 3 cardio sessions, 1 to 2 would probably sit really well. And if he's got gymnastic skills, it's going to be pretty easy to practice those, because he'll have a lot more time for that.
Yeah.
And then moving on from that, if you don't have access to equipment, you're looking at finding movements that replicate the movements that you can kind of have an idea of what you're hitting. So for example, a 1K row, you could figure out what kind of feels for you, and then try and imitate that with your run or even a swim. Most people have access to water. And then, gymnastics, looking for holds and isometric hold movements, planches, things that are just going to put you in a position for a long period of time, because that's where the tension is.
Yeah, definitely. And add some variation where you can. So if you are doing push-ups, don't just always do the same hand position. Try and play around with the angles where you can, move into your pikes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It just unfortunately requires you to be very conscious of what you're doing. And I think that's what most people lack.
Yeah.
Is they want to switch off for the holidays, and they switch off with everything.
Yeah. Then they're just like, oh, well, next year's a good time to start training.
Yeah.
New Year resolution kind of thing, where it's like, in reality, there's actually very little you need to do to maintain what you've got, and there's no need to lose that so close to the end of the year. Not even lose it, but just be mindful that you don't have to do as much to keep what you've got.
Yeah, exactly. And I try and make it fun. So for me personally, when I come back and train over the holidays, I just add a little bit more element of enjoyment to things.
Yeah.
And that's my focus, so that I can hit the new year with that energy, and I'm ready to do that hard work.
Yeah.
As where if I make it not fun or boring or a chore now, then when we need to ramp, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's because you're just going to be burnt out.
Yeah.
You've just gone too hard over the holidays, and you haven't had that time to relax where everyone else has. So they've got the advantage over you inherently.
And that might be doing a run with other people, doing a hike with other people, jumping on a group class.
You said, things like the frog pose and other certain movements, frog holes or whatever they are. Do you have a movement library where people can find these types of movements?
Yeah, so if you jump on Unbound Athletics YouTube, there's a whole movement library there separated by gymnastics. We've also got the mobility segment. So if you wanted to do some mobility stuff to address that, it's there. Mobility is something you can do everywhere. So if you know, okay, well, I can't do a straddle kick up because my groin's tight, well, then that's one thing you can target while you're away.
Yeah. Mobility is a thing that everyone sucks at, but everyone has the option or ability to do. Cool.